The rain fell hard that night. Taman pulled his jacket tighter as he walked through the dark streets near the spaceport. Water ran down his face and soaked through his boots. He was tired. His back hurt from 12 hours of fixing broken alien machines. All he wanted was to go home, eat something hot, and sleep. The spaceport was quiet now. During the day, it was full of noise and people. Ships came and went. Aliens walked around like they owned the place. Most of them looked down at humans. They thought Earth was nothing special, just a small planet with primitive people. Taman had heard it all before. He did not care much anymore. He turned the corner toward his workshop when he saw something move near the cargo dock. At first, he thought it was just trash blown by the wind, but then he heard a sound. A soft, broken cry. Someone was hurt. Taman stopped walking. His heart beat faster. He should keep going. Getting involved with strangers was dangerous, especially near the docks. But the cry came again, weaker this time. He could not ignore it. He walked toward the sound. Behind a stack of metal containers, he found her. A young woman lay on the wet ground. She was curled up, shaking. Her clothes were torn and burned in places. She had no shoes. Her feet were covered in cuts and dirt. Taman knelt beside her. She was not human. Her skin had a strange pale glow even in the darkness. Her eyes, when she opened them, were violet. She looked at him with fear and confusion. He spoke softly. She did not understand. She tried to speak back, but the words made no sense. They were not any language he knew. Taman reached for his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a universal translator, something he used for work. He turned it on and held it between them. The device buzzed and clicked. After a moment, it spoke in a flat voice. The girl was asking for help. She was scared. She did not know where she was. Taman looked around. The area was empty, but cameras were everywhere. If security saw this, they would take her away. They would ask questions. Maybe they would send her back to wherever she came from. Or worse, he made a decision. He helped her stand. She was weak and could barely walk. He put her arm around his shoulder and half-carried her toward his workshop. It was only a few blocks away. The rain helped hide them. No one was out in this weather. Inside the workshop, Taman turned on a small heater and found some old blankets. The girl sat on the floor, still shaking. He brought her water and she drank it slowly. He found some clean clothes, too big for her but better than what she wore. She looked at him with those strange violet eyes, still afraid but also grateful. Through the translator, he asked her name. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head. She did not remember. He asked where she came from. Another shake of the head. He asked if she was hurt. This time she nodded. Taman found his medical kit. It was basic, meant for small injuries. He cleaned the cuts on her feet and wrapped them in bandages. She winced but did not cry out. When he was done, she whispered something through the translator. "Do not tell anyone, please." He looked at her. She was terrified. Whatever had happened to her, it was bad. She was running from something. Or someone. Taman knew he should report this. It was the law. But laws were made by people who did not have to look into the eyes of someone who was hurt and scared. He nodded slowly. "You can stay here tonight. Tomorrow we will figure something out." The girl closed her eyes. For the first time, her body relaxed a little. Taman gave her more blankets and told her she could sleep on the old couch in the corner. He would stay awake and keep watch. The next morning, she woke up screaming. Taman rushed to her side. She was breathing hard, her eyes wide with panic. Through the translator, she told him about nightmares, fire and pain, voices shouting. She remembered being on a ship, and then nothing. Over the next few days, she stayed hidden in the workshop. Taman brought her food and tried to make her comfortable. She was nervous around him at first, but slowly she began to trust him. She watched him work on the alien machines. Sometimes she would point it apart and make a gesture, showing him a better way to fix it. She knew technology. That much was clear. Taman needed to call her something. Using the translator every time felt cold. He thought about it and decided on a name, Mireille. It was a Korean word that meant future. She had no past that she could remember, so maybe she could have a future instead. When he told her the name, she repeated it slowly. Mireille. She smiled for the first time since he found her. It was a small, sad smile, but it was real. By the end of the week, Taman noticed things about her. She was very thin, like she had not eaten properly in a long time. She flinched at sudden movements and loud sounds. She never wanted to go near the windows. She was afraid someone would see her. One evening, Taman sat with her and tried to learn more. Through the translator, he asked gentle questions. Did she remember anything about her family? No. Did she know what planet she came from? No. Did she know why she was running? She paused at that question. Then she said something that made his blood run cold. I think I was property, not a person. Property. Taman felt anger rise in his chest. He had heard stories about some alien species. They treated others as slaves or worse. He had always hoped those stories were exaggerated. Now he was not so sure. He looked at Mirai and made a silent promise. Whatever she had been before, she was not property now. She was a person, and he would help her stay free. That night, Taman could not sleep. He kept thinking about the girl in his workshop. She had no name, no shoes, and no memory of who she was. But she was here now. She was real, and she needed help. Outside, the rain started again. Taman listened to it hit the roof. He wondered what tomorrow would bring. He wondered if he had made the right choice. But when he looked over at Mirai, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, he knew the answer. He had done the right thing. And he would keep doing it no matter what came next. A week passed. Mirai grew more comfortable in the workshop. She helped Taman with small tasks. She learned to make tea the way he liked it. She smiled more often, though her eyes still carried sadness. But there was one thing she refused to do. She would not bathe properly. Taman understood she was scared. Maybe water reminded her of something bad, or maybe she was just not ready. He did not push her, but after a week the dirt and grime from the night he found her still clung to her skin and hair. She needed to clean herself. One morning he prepared the small bathroom in the back of the workshop. He made sure the water was warm. He left out clean towels and soap. Then he gently asked Mirai if she would try, just for a little while. She could lock the door. She would be safe. Mirai looked at the bathroom door for a long time. Finally, she nodded. Taman smiled and told her to take as much time as she needed. He would be in the front room working. If she needed anything, she could call for him. She walked into the bathroom and closed the door. Taman heard the lock click. He went back to his workbench and tried to focus on repairing a damaged power cell, but his mind kept wandering. He hoped she was okay. Inside the bathroom, Mirai stood in front of the mirror. She barely recognized the reflection staring back at her. Her hair was matted and dirty. Her face was covered in dust. She looked like a ghost. She turned on the water and stepped into the small shower. The warm water felt strange at first. Then it felt good. She closed her eyes and let it run over her. Slowly she began to scrub away the dirt. As the water washed away the grime, something appeared on her skin. Patterns. Thin, delicate lines that glowed faintly in the dim light. They covered her arms, her shoulders, her back. She stared at them in shock. The patterns were beautiful but terrifying. They were part of her. They had been hidden under the dirt all this time. And now that she could see them, memories began to flood back. Painful, horrible memories. She remembered a ship, cold metal walls, voices speaking a language she understood now. Velari. That was what they called themselves. Her people. No, not her people. The people who owned her. The Velari were a powerful species. They traveled the galaxy taking what they wanted. They saw other beings as tools, things to be used. She remembered being taken from a colony world when she was very young. She remembered being trained to serve, to obey without question. The patterns on her skin were marks of her caste. They showed that she came from a family that served the High Lords. She was bred to be useful, to be silent, to be nothing more than property. Mirai looked at herself in the mirror again. The water was still running, but she could not feel it anymore. All she could feel was horror. She was Velari. She was one of them. The species that enslaved others. The species that destroyed worlds and called it progress. More memories came. She remembered humans being brought onto the ships. They were small and weak compared to most species. The Velari treated them like animals. Some were used for labor, others for experiments. She remembered watching it happen and doing nothing. Because she had been taught that it was normal, that it was right, but it was not right. Deep inside, even through the conditioning and the training, some part of her had known, and now that knowledge hit her like a hammer. She had been part of something evil. She had worn these marks with pride once. She had believed she was serving a great purpose. Mirai sank to the floor of the shower. The water poured over her as she began to sob. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hide the glowing patterns. But they would not go away. They were part of her. They always would be. She did not know how long she stayed there. Time seemed to disappear. All she knew was the crushing weight of what she had learned. She was a monster. She belonged to a species of monsters, and now she was hiding among the very people her kind had hurt. Eventually, she heard a knock on the door. Taemin's voice came through, worried and gentle. He asked if she was okay. She could not answer. She tried, but only broken sounds came out. The door opened. She had forgotten to lock it. Taemin stepped inside and saw her on the floor, water still running, her body shaking with sobs. He quickly turned off the water and wrapped a towel around her shoulders. Then he saw the patterns on her skin. The faint glow. His eyes widened, but he did not pull away. He did not look disgusted or afraid. He just looked concerned. Mirai tried to explain through the translator, but the words came out jumbled and broken. She told him about the Valari, about what they did, about what she was. She told him she understood now why she had been running. The ship, she remembered, had been attacked. The Valari did not want survivors. They did not want anyone to know about their illegal activities. She looked up at Taemin with tears streaming down her face. She waited for him to push her away, to tell her to leave, to say he wanted nothing to do with someone like her, but he did not do any of those things. Instead, he sat down on the floor beside her. He did not touch her, but he was close. His voice was calm and steady when he spoke. "You are not what they made you. You are what you choose to be." Mirai stared at him. Those words were simple, but they cut through everything. She had spent years being told what she was, what she should be. No one had ever said she could choose, Taemin continued. He told her that where someone came from did not matter. What mattered was what they did now. She had not hurt anyone here. She had been kind. She had helped him. She was not responsible for the actions of her species. Mirai wanted to believe him. But the patterns on her skin felt like a brand, a permanent reminder of what she was. Taemin seemed to understand. He reached out slowly and pointed to the glowing marks. He said they were just light, just biology. They did not define her. She defined herself. For the first time since the memories returned, Mirai felt something other than despair. She felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe Taemin was right. Maybe she could be something different. Something better. She wiped her eyes and nodded slowly. Taemin smiled and helped her to her feet. He gave her privacy to dry off and get dressed. When she came out of the bathroom, she felt different. The weight was still there, but it was a little lighter now. That night, Mirai could not sleep. She lay on the couch and stared at her arms. The patterns glowed softly in the darkness. She thought about everything Taemin had said. She thought about the choice in front of her. She could run away and hide forever, or she could stay and try to be the person Taemin believed she could be. It was terrifying. But for the first time since waking up in the rain, Mirai felt like she had a purpose. She would stay. She would choose to be better. And somehow she would find a way to make up for what her people had done. Taemin knew they needed answers. Mirai's memories were still fragmented. She remembered the Valari and what they did, but she could not remember exactly how she ended up on Earth. Without that information, they could not keep her safe. He thought about going to the authorities, but Mirai begged him not to. She said the Valari had connections everywhere. If word got out that a survivor was on Earth, they would come for her. They would finish what they started, so Taemin decided to find help another way. He knew someone who dealt in information. His name was Hunwoo, and he worked in the gray areas between legal and illegal. If anyone could dig up information about a Valari ship without raising alarms, it was him. That evening, Taemin left Mirai at the workshop and took a train to the old district. The buildings there were falling apart, but they were full of life. Neon signs flickered in different languages. Music poured out of bars. People from a dozen different species walked the streets. Hyunwoo's office was in the basement of a gambling house. Taemin knocked 3 times and waited. A camera above the door buzzed as it looked at him. Then the door clicked open. Inside, Hyunwoo sat behind a desk covered in screens and data pads. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and quick hands. He looked up and grinned when he saw Taemin. Well, you never visit unless you need something. What is it this time?" Taemin sat down. He chose his words carefully. He told Hyunwoo he needed information about a Valari ship, one that might have been destroyed or attacked near Earth in the past month. He did not mention Mirai, not yet. Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. Asking about the Valari was dangerous. They did not like people poking into their business. But Hyunwoo loved a challenge. And Taemin was offering good money. Give me 2 days. I will see what I can find. Taemin left the office and headed home. He felt uneasy. Asking questions was risky, but they had no choice. They needed to know what they were dealing with. When he got back to the workshop, he found someone waiting for him. His sister Jiwon stood outside the door with her arms crossed. She did not look happy. Jiwon worked for Earth's Defense Bureau. She analyzed data and tracked threats. She was smart, tough, and did not trust easily. Taemin loved her, but right now he did not want to see her. You have been acting strange. She said it like an accusation. You have not answered my calls. You have been spending all your time here. What is going on? Taemin tried to play it off. He said he was just busy with work. But Jiwon was not buying it. She pushed past him and walked into the workshop before he could stop her. Inside, Miri stood frozen by the workbench. She had been sorting parts, but now she just stared at Jiwon with wide, fearful eyes. The glowing patterns on her arms were visible in the dim light. Jiwon's hand went to the device on her belt. It was a stun weapon, standard issue for Bureau agents. Her voice turned cold. Who is she? And why is there an unregistered alien in your workshop? Taemin stepped between them. He held up his hands and told Jiwon to wait, to listen. He explained how he found Mirai, how she had no memory at first, how she was scared and hurt. He left out some details, but he told enough. Jiwon listened, but her expression did not soften. When Taemin finished, she shook her head. You should have reported this immediately. She is Valari, Taemin. Do you know what they are capable of? Mirai spoke then, her voice quiet and broken through the translator. I know what they do. I was their prisoner. Please do not send me back to them. Jiwon looked at Mirai for a long moment. She saw the fear in those violet eyes. She saw the way Mirai trembled, and slowly her hand moved away from the weapon. Tell me everything. If you are lying, I will know. They sat down and Mirai told her story. She explained what she remembered about the Valari, about being taken as a child, about the ship, about waking up on Earth with nothing but fear. Jiwon listened without interrupting. When Mirai finished, Jiwon was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. 3 weeks ago, a Valari research vessel was attacked in this sector. There were reports of escape pods. The Valari claimed all personnel were accounted for, but my team had doubts. Now I know why. She pulled out a data pad and showed them images. The ship was a twisted wreck floating in space. Scorch marks covered the hull. Whatever happened, it had been violent. This was not a normal research ship. Jiwon continued. Our scans picked up unusual energy signatures. We think they were doing illegal experiments, but we had no proof. Until now, Mirai looked at the images. More memories came back. She remembered the lab, the cold tables, the tests. She had been one of many, but the others she did not know what happened to them. Jiwon turned to Taemin. This is bigger than I thought. If the Valari find out she survived, they will do anything to silence her. You put yourself in danger by helping her. Taemin met his sister's eyes. I know, but I could not leave her in the rain. Jiwon sighed. She looked at Mirai again, and this time there was something softer in her expression. Something like sympathy. 2 days later, Hyunwoo called. He had found information. Taemin and Jiwon went to meet him, leaving Mirai hidden in the workshop. Hyunwoo spread files across his desk. He had dug deep and found things that were supposed to be buried. The Valari ship had been conducting experiments on abducted individuals from various species. They were testing genetic modifications, trying to create better slaves, better soldiers. The ship was attacked by a rival faction within the Valari Empire, not because they cared about the victims, but because they wanted the research for themselves. In the chaos, some prisoners escaped. The Valari destroyed all records and claimed there were no survivors. But Mirai was proof that they lied. Hyunwoo looked at them seriously. If you are protecting one of those survivors, you need to be careful. The Valari have agents everywhere. They will be looking for anyone who escaped. Taemin thanked him and paid for the information. As they left, Jiwon spoke quietly. We need to decide what to do. Keeping her hidden is only a temporary solution. Taemin nodded. He knew she was right. But what could they do? Mirai was a walking piece of evidence against one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They needed a plan, and they needed it soon. That night, the three of them sat together in the workshop. Mirai listened as Taemin and Jiwon explained what they had learned. She was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. I do not want to hide forever. If I have proof of what they did, maybe we can use it. Maybe we can stop them from hurting others. Jiwon looked at her with new respect. That is brave. But it is also dangerous, Mirai nodded. I know, but I am tired of being afraid. I want to fight back. And so in that small workshop on the edge of Seoul, they made a decision. They would not run. They would not hide. They would expose the truth no matter the cost. The days that followed were tense. Jiwon used her access at the Defense Bureau to gather more evidence. She worked carefully, making sure no one noticed what she was doing. Every piece of information brought them closer to understanding the full picture of Valari crimes. Mirai spent her time in the workshop, but she was different now. She was no longer the scared, lost girl Taemin had found in the rain. She had a purpose. She studied everything she could about the Valari Empire. She wanted to understand her enemy. One evening, Jiwon came to the workshop with news. Her face was pale and serious. She gathered Taemin and Mirai around her datapad. The Valari have sent someone to Earth. His name is Kalos. He is here officially as a trade diplomat, but my sources say he is actually a hunter. His job is to clean up problems. And right now you are his problem. She showed them an image. Kalos was tall and elegant with the same glowing patterns as Mirai, but more complex. His mark showed he was high caste, a warrior. His eyes were cold and empty. Mirai stared at the image. Memories stirred. She thought she recognized him, but she could not be sure. Her past was still full of holes. How long do we have? Taemin asked. Jiwon shook her head. I do not know. He arrived yesterday. He could find her tomorrow or next week. But he will find her eventually. The Valari have technology we do not understand. They can track genetic signatures. Mirai felt her chest tighten. She had known this moment would come. But hearing it said out loud made it real. She looked at Taemin and Jiwon, these two humans who had risked everything for her. Maybe I should leave Earth. Go somewhere far away. That way you will be safe. Taemin shook his head firmly. Running will not solve anything. They will follow you wherever you go. And other people will suffer the way you suffered. We need to end this, but how? Mirai asked. We are 3 people against an empire. Jiwon leaned forward. We go public. We take everything we know to the Galactic Council. We force them to investigate. The Valari are powerful, but they cannot ignore an official inquiry. It was a dangerous plan. The Galactic Council was made up of dozens of species, each with their own interests. Many feared the Valari. Others owed them debts. Getting the Council to act would be almost impossible, but it was the only chance they had. Mirai thought about it for a long time. She thought about the other prisoners on that ship. She thought about the ones who did not escape. She thought about future victims. Finally she spoke, I will do it. I will testify before the Council. Even if they do not believe me, at least I will have tried. Taemin reached out and squeezed her hand. We will be with you every step of the way. They spent the next few days preparing. Jiwon contacted Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, a woman named Somin. Somin was tough and ambitious. She saw an opportunity to raise Earth's standing in the galaxy. If they could expose Valari crimes, other species might start taking humans more seriously. Somin agreed to help, but she warned them. This will make enemies. The Valari have allies. They will fight back hard. Are you prepared for that? Mirai said yes without hesitation. On the 5th day, something happened. Taemin was working late in the workshop when he heard a sound outside. A soft scraping, like metal on stone. He froze and listened. Mirai was asleep in the back room. Taemin moved quietly to wake her. As he reached the door, the window exploded inward. Glass flew everywhere. A figure moved through the darkness, fast and silent. Kalos had found them. Taemin grabbed a metal pipe from his workbench. It was not much of a weapon, but it was something. Kalos stepped into the light. He was even more intimidating in person. His glowing patterns pulsed with a cold blue light. His movements were precise and deadly. He spoke in Valari, and a small device on his chest translated. You are protecting defective property. Hand her over and I will make your death quick. Taman did not answer. He swung the pipe. Kalos dodged easily and moved to strike back. But Taman had spent years working with alien technology. He knew how things worked. He had prepared for this possibility. He hit a switch on the wall. The floor beneath Kalos lit up with electricity. It was a trap Taman had rigged using parts from broken shield generators. Kalos jerked and fell to one knee, his body spasming from the shock. But Valari were tough. Kalos recovered quickly and lunged forward. This time he was angry. He grabbed Taman by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Then Mirai appeared. She held a plasma cutter, a tool Taman used for repairs. She pointed it at Kalos and shouted in Valari. Her voice was strong and clear, "Let him go, or I will burn through your spine." Kalos looked at her. For the first time there was something in his cold eyes. Surprise. He dropped Taman and turned to face Mirai. "You would attack your own kind to protect this insect?" Mirai did not lower the plasma cutter. "You are not my kind. You are a monster, and I will not let you hurt anyone else." Kalos laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "Then you have chosen death." Before he could move, the door burst open. Jiwan rushed in with 4 armed security officers. She must have been monitoring the workshop. She pointed her weapon at Kalos. "Do not move. You are under arrest for attempted murder and illegal entry." Kalos looked around. He was outnumbered, but he did not seem worried. He smiled at Mirai. "This is not over. I will find you again, and next time there will be no escape." He moved faster than anyone expected. He threw something at the ground and smoke filled the room. When it cleared, he was gone. He had escaped through a back window. Taman coughed and rubbed his throat. Mirai dropped the plasma cutter and ran to him. She helped him sit down and checked for injuries. He was bruised but okay. Jiwan secured the area and called for more backup. When she was done, she looked at them both. "We are out of time. We need to move now. Salman has arranged for an emergency session with the Galactic Council. It is happening in 3 days. Can you be ready?" Mirai looked at Taman. He nodded at her. She took a deep breath and turned back to Jiwan. "Yes, I am ready." That night they packed everything they needed. Evidence, testimony, proof of Valari crimes. They knew what they were about to do was dangerous. But they had made their choice. They would stand before the most powerful beings in the galaxy and tell the truth. And whatever happened next, they would face it together. After Kalos escaped, Jiwan moved Taman and Mirai to a safe house. It was a small apartment in the government district, heavily guarded and monitored. Security cameras watched every entrance. Armed officers patrolled the halls. But none of them felt safe. Kalos was out there somewhere. He knew where they had been. He knew what they looked like. And he would not stop until he completed his mission. Mirai barely slept. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. Every sound made her jump. Taman stayed close to her, trying to help her feel safe. But he was scared too. He had seen what Kalos could do. The Valari hunter was faster and stronger than any human. If he came back, they might not survive. Ambassador Soman visited them on the second day. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a confident voice. She had been working in galactic politics for 20 years. She knew how dangerous this situation was. "The council session is tomorrow," Soman said. "They have agreed to hear your testimony, but it was not easy to arrange. Many council members are nervous about challenging the Valari. You need to be prepared for hostility." Mirai nodded. She had spent the past 2 days practicing what she would say. She had to be clear and strong. Any sign of weakness and the council would dismiss her. Salman looked at her seriously. "The Valari delegation will be there. They will try to discredit you. They will call you a liar and a traitor. They might even try to claim you are mentally unstable. You need to stay calm no matter what they say." "I understand," Mirai said quietly. Salman stood to leave, then paused. "For what it is worth, I believe you, and I think what you are doing is brave. Not many people would stand up to the Valari." After Salman left, Taman sat with Mirai. They talked about small things, trying to distract themselves from the fear. Mirai told him about a memory that had come back. She remembered a garden on the colony world where she was taken from. She remembered flowers that glowed at night. She had been happy once before the Valari came. Taman listened and wished he could give her back those peaceful days. But the past was gone. All they could do now was fight for a better future. That night, Kalos struck again. The attack came just after midnight. The power went out suddenly. Emergency lights kicked on, casting red shadows everywhere. Alarms blared. Jiwon burst into the room where Taemin and Mirai were staying. He is in the building. Get ready to move. They could hear fighting in the hallway, shouts and the sound of weapons firing. Taemin grabbed a bag with their essential documents. Mirai held onto his arm, her eyes wide with fear. Jiwon led them to a back stairwell. They ran down the stairs, their footsteps echoing. Behind them they heard a terrible crash. Kalos had broken through the security forces. He was coming. They reached the ground floor and burst out into a parking garage. A vehicle was waiting for them, engine running. Jiwon pushed them inside and jumped into the driver's seat. They sped away just as Kalos appeared at the exit. He watched them go, his expression cold and calculating. How did he find us? Taemin asked, breathing hard. Jiwon shook her head. I do not know. That place was supposed to be secure. Either he has better technology than we thought, or he has help. The thought of a traitor made everything worse. If someone inside Earth's government was helping Kalos, they could not trust anyone. Jiwon drove them to another location, this time an old warehouse on the edge of the city. It was not comfortable, but it was off the grid. No one knew about this place except her. Inside, they set up a temporary camp. Taemin checked their supplies while Jiwon made calls to her trusted contacts. Mirai sat in the corner hugging her knees. She felt like she was bringing nothing but danger to everyone around her. Taemin noticed and sat down beside her. This is not your fault, Mirai shook her head. Yes, it is. If I had stayed hidden, Kalos would not be hunting you. People would not be getting hurt. If you had stayed hidden, the Volari would keep doing what they do. More people would suffer. You are trying to stop that. That makes you a hero, not a burden. Mirai looked at him. His face was bruised from the first attack. He had risked his life multiple times for her, and he did not regret it. She could see that in his eyes. Thank you, she said softly. For everything. Jiwon finished her calls and came over. I have arranged for extra security tomorrow. The council chamber will be locked down. Kalos will not be able to get inside, but getting you there safely is another problem. She pulled out a map and showed them the route. We will use multiple vehicles, decoys. We will move fast and unpredictable. It is the best we can do. Taemin studied the map. What about after the testimony? Even if we succeed, Kalos will still be out there. Jiwon was quiet for a moment. If the council acts, if they sanction the Volari, Kalos might be forced to leave Earth. His mission will become a political problem. But that is a big if. They tried to sleep, but it was difficult. Every sound outside made them tense. Every passing minute brought them closer to the council session. Closer to either justice or disaster. Near dawn, Mirai had another nightmare. She woke up gasping, her skin glowing brighter with stress. Taemin was there immediately, holding her hand and talking quietly until she calmed down. She told him about the dream. She had been back on the Volari ship. She had been strapped to a table while they ran tests. She could not move, could not scream. She was just a thing to them. An object. Taemin listened, his heart breaking for her. He wished he could erase those memories, but he could not. All he could do was be there. Tomorrow you will tell everyone what happened, and they will have to listen. Your voice matters, Mirai. Do not forget that. When morning came, they prepared to leave. Jiwon had gathered a team of trusted officers. They wore civilian clothes to avoid attention. Multiple vehicles were ready, all identical. The plan was to confuse anyone trying to track them. Mirai got into one of the vehicles with Taemin. Her hands were shaking. Taemin held one of them steady. You can do this, he said. She nodded and tried to believe him. The convoy left the warehouse and headed toward the council building. Traffic was thick, which worked in their favor. They blended in with thousands of other vehicles. Jiwon kept in constant contact with the drivers, adjusting the route as they went. Everything seemed to be going well. Then 2 blocks from the council building, something happened. A vehicle swerved in front of them, forcing their car to stop. Jiwon cursed and reached for her weapon, but it was not Kalos. It was a group of protesters, humans who were angry about alien influence on Earth. They surrounded the vehicle, shouting and banging on the windows. They did not know who was inside. They were just angry. Jiwon called for backup. Within minutes, police arrived and cleared the protesters away. The convoy moved forward again. But the delay had cost them precious time. They finally reached the council building. It was a massive structure, all glass and steel. Ships from different species were docked on its roof. Guards stood at every entrance. Mirai stepped out of the vehicle and looked up at the building. This was it. This was the moment everything had been leading to. She took a deep breath and walked forward. Taemin walked beside her. Jiwon was on her other side. Together, they passed through security and entered the council building. The hallways were filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some stared at Mirai. Others ignored her completely. Ambassador Samin met them at the chamber entrance. She looked at Mirai with respect. "Are you ready?" Mirai looked back at Taemin one more time. He gave her an encouraging nod. She turned back to Somin. "Yes, I am ready." The doors opened. Inside, hundreds of beings waited. Representatives from species she could barely name. And there in the front row sat the Valari delegation. Their glowing patterns pulsed with cold authority. They looked at her like she was nothing. But Mirai was not nothing. She was a survivor, and today she would make sure the galaxy knew the truth. The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched up several stories covered in screens showing different languages. Seats arranged in a circle held representatives from over 50 species. Each one had translation devices and voting panels in front of them. At the center of the circle was a small platform. That was where Mirai would stand. That was where she would tell her story to the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The council leader, a tall being with crystalline skin, called the session to order. The noise in the chamber died down. All eyes turned to Mirai as she walked to the platform. Her legs felt weak, but she kept moving. Taemin and Jiwon sat in the gallery section reserved for Earth's delegation. Taemin watched Mirai with his heart in his throat. She looked so small down there, so alone, but her back was straight and her head was high. The council leader spoke. "You have been granted the right to testify before this body. State your name and your purpose." Mirai's voice came through the translation system clear and steady. "My name is Mirai. I am a survivor of Valari illegal experimentation. I am here to tell you what they did to me and countless others." A murmur ran through the chamber. The Valari delegation sat perfectly still, their faces showing nothing. But Mirai could feel their anger radiating across the room. She began her testimony. She told them about being taken from a colony world as a child. She described the conditioning, the training, the years of servitude. She explained how she was taught to see herself as property, not a person. Then she talked about the ship, the experiments, the pain. She showed them the glowing patterns on her arms and explained what they meant. These marks were not just decoration. They were a catalog system, a way to track inventory. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward, listening intently. The chamber was completely silent except for Mirai's voice. She described the attack on the ship. The chaos, how she managed to escape in a pod, how she crashed on Earth with no memory of who she was, and how humans, these supposedly primitive beings, had shown her more kindness than her own people ever did. When she finished, the chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then the Valari delegation leader stood. He was an older male with complex patterns covering his entire body. His voice was smooth and cold. "This testimony is based entirely on the claims of a mentally unstable individual. She was found wandering Earth with no identification. She has no proof of these alleged crimes. The Valari Empire categorically denies all accusations." Mirai felt anger rise in her chest. She had expected this, but it still hurt. The Valari leader continued. "Furthermore, this individual is a registered citizen of the Valari Empire. She is legally our responsibility. We demand she be returned to us immediately for proper care." Ambassador Somin stood. "With respect, Counselor, she is on Earth soil. She has requested asylum. Under galactic law, we have the right to protect her." The Valari leader turned to Somin with barely concealed contempt. "Earth has no legal standing to harbor a Valari citizen. Your species barely understands interstellar law." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species supported the Valari. Others questioned their story. The council leader had to call for order multiple times. Finally, a representative from the Karathi species stood. The Karathi were known for being fair and logical. They had been part of the council for centuries. "We cannot make a decision based solely on testimony. Where is the evidence? Where are the records of this ship? Where are the other survivors?" Somin stepped forward. "We have evidence. The human delegation has been conducting an investigation. We have wreckage analysis, communication intercepts, and witness statements." She presented data files to the council. Images of the destroyed ship. Energy signatures that matched illegal weapons. Communications that referenced experimental subjects. The council reviewed the evidence. Some members looked disturbed. Others remained skeptical. The Valari delegation leader demanded to see the original data, claiming it could be fabricated. Then something unexpected happened. A door at the back of the chamber opened. Hyunwoo walked in carrying a data case. He looked nervous but determined. He approached the council leader and handed over the case. Inside were files he had obtained through his network of informants. Real Valari documents, internal communications, orders from high-ranking officials. Proof that the experiments were not just the work of one rogue ship, but a systematic program. The council leader examined the documents. His crystalline face showed surprise. These are authenticated Valari military communications. How did you obtain them? Hyunwoo smiled slightly. I have my sources. But the important thing is they are real. And they prove everything she said. The Valari delegation tried to object, but the evidence was overwhelming. The documents contained details that matched Mirai's testimony exactly. Locations, dates, methods, everything. The chamber erupted again, but this time the tone was different. Species that had been neutral were now demanding answers. Some called for sanctions. Others wanted a full investigation. Mirai stood on the platform watching it all unfold. She felt dizzy. This was really happening. People were listening. They were believing her. The Valari leader tried one last tactic. Even if these accusations were true, which we deny, this is an internal matter. The council has no authority to interfere with how the Valari Empire manages its own citizens. The Karathi representative responded immediately. The victims were not all Valari citizens. According to these documents, subjects were taken from at least 12 different species. That makes it a council matter. Other representatives agreed. The Valari had violated treaties. They had broken laws that all council species were supposed to follow. This could not be ignored. The council leader called for a vote. It would not solve everything, but it was a start. They voted on whether to open a formal investigation into Valari activities. The voting panels lit up around the chamber. Green for yes, red for no. Mirai held her breath. Taemin gripped the railing in front of him. When the count finished, the result appeared on the main screen. 42 in favor, 15 against. The motion passed. The chamber erupted in noise. Some cheered. Others protested. The Valari delegation stood and walked out without another word. Their faces showed barely controlled rage. Mirai felt her legs give out. She sank to her knees on the platform. It was over. She had done it. She had told the truth and they had listened. Taemin rushed down from the gallery. Security tried to stop him, but Somin waved them off. He reached Mirai and helped her stand. She was crying, but this time they were tears of relief. You did it, Taemin said, his voice thick with emotion. You really did it. Mirai looked up at him. We did it. All of us. As they left the chamber, council members approached them. Some offered congratulations. Others promised support for the investigation. A few species that had suffered under Valari aggression in the past thanked Mirai for her courage. But not everyone was happy. As they walked through the hall, Mirai saw members of other species looking at her with fear or disgust. She had made powerful enemies today. The Valari would not forget this. Neither would their allies. Ambassador Somin walked with them to the exit. This is just the beginning. The investigation will take time, and the Valari will fight every step of the way. But you have given us something important today. You have given us hope. Outside the council building, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple. Mirai took a deep breath of fresh air. For the first time in her memory, she felt like she could breathe properly. But the fight was not over yet. Kalos was still out there, and the Valari Empire would not accept defeat easily. The real battle was just beginning. 3 weeks after the council session, things began to change. The investigation into Valari activities moved forward slowly but surely. Documents were seized, ships were inspected. Witnesses came forward from other species, telling similar stories to Mirai's. The Valari Empire fought back hard. They used their political power to slow the process. They claimed the investigation was motivated by jealousy and fear of their success. Some council members believed them, but more and more species were starting to question the Valari's version of events. Meanwhile, Mirai stayed on Earth under protection. She was safe for now, but she knew Kalos was still out there. The Valari had not recalled him. That meant he still had a mission to complete. Taman returned to his workshop, but everything felt different. He had seen too much to go back to his old life. He spent his days working on projects that mattered. He helped other refugees who arrived on Earth. He used his skills to make a real difference. Mireille often joined him. She was learning to live in the world again. She practiced speaking without the translator. She learned to cook human food. She even started to smile more often. The weight she carried was still there, but it was lighter now. One day, Ambassador Soman visited them. She had news. The Council had voted to impose sanctions on the Valari Empire. It was not a complete victory, but it was significant. The Valari would lose access to certain trade routes. Some of their diplomatic privileges would be suspended. It was a message that their actions had consequences. Soman also told them that Earth's reputation had improved. Other species saw that humans were willing to stand up for what was right, even against powerful enemies. New partnerships were forming. Earth was no longer seen as insignificant. That evening, there was a ceremony at the council building. Mireille was invited to speak at an event honoring survivors of illegal detention and experimentation. Representatives from various species would be there. It was an opportunity to keep the momentum going. Mireille was nervous but determined to go. She had come this far. She would not hide now. Taman and Jiwan accompanied her. Security was tight. No one expected trouble, but they were prepared just in case. The ceremony was held in a large hall decorated with banners from different worlds. Hundreds of beings gathered to listen. Mireille took the stage and spoke about her journey. She talked about fear and hope, about loss and recovery. Her words were simple but powerful. When she finished, the audience applauded. Some people were crying. Others looked angry, motivated to fight against similar injustices in their own worlds. Mireille felt something she had not felt in a long time. She felt proud. As she left the stage, she saw movement in the crowd. Her heart stopped. It was Kalos. He was moving toward the stage, pushing through the crowd. He had a weapon concealed under his coat. Security was scanning the room, but they had not spotted him yet. He was too good at hiding. Mireille froze. For a moment, she was back on the ship, helpless, afraid. But then she remembered everything she had been through, everything she had overcome. She was not that person anymore. She shouted a warning, "Kalos!" Everyone turned to look. Security spotted him immediately, but Kalos was fast. He pulled his weapon and aimed it at Mireille. Before he could fire, Taman tackled him from the side. They crashed to the ground. The weapon went flying. Jiwan and several security officers rushed forward. Kalos fought like a cornered animal, but he was outnumbered. Mireille walked down from the stage. She moved through the chaos until she stood over Kalos. He was pinned to the ground, breathing hard. His cold eyes looked up at her with hatred. "You failed," Mireille said quietly, "and you will keep failing, because we are not afraid of you anymore." Kalos snarled something in Valari. Mireille understood every word. He called her a traitor. He said she would always be property, that she would never escape what she was. Mireille looked at him with something close to pity. "I already have." Security took Kalos away. He would face charges for attempted murder and violating diplomatic protocols. The Valari Empire could not protect him now, not after such a public attack. He had become a liability to them. In the aftermath of the attack, the Council's support for the investigation grew stronger. Species that had been on the fence now fully backed the sanctions. The Valari had shown their true nature in front of everyone. Days turned into weeks. The investigation continued. More evidence came to light. The Valari Empire began to fracture. Some factions within their society started speaking out against the experiments. It would take years, maybe decades, but change was beginning. Mireille decided to stay on Earth permanently. She applied for official residency, and it was granted. She chose a new name to go with her new life. She called herself Hana, a Korean word meaning one or unity. It represented her connection to humanity and her desire to bring people together. She started working with an organization that helped refugees from across the galaxy. She used her knowledge of Valari systems to identify victims and track down traffickers. She became an advocate, a voice for those who had none. Taman continued to run his workshop, but now it served a dual purpose. It was still a repair shop, but it was also a safe house. A place where people running from persecution could find shelter. Hana worked there with him, side by side. Jiwon got a promotion at the Defense Bureau. Her work on the Valari case had proven her value. She used her new position to strengthen Earth's ability to protect those seeking asylum. She made sure no one would be turned away the way some had wanted to turn away Hana. 1 year after she was found in the rain, Hana stood in Taman's workshop. She was helping repair a climate control unit from a colony ship. Her hands moved with confidence. She knew what she was doing now. She had a purpose. Taman came over and handed her a small box. He had been working on something in secret. Hana opened it and smiled. Inside was a pair of shoes. They were simple, comfortable, and perfectly her size. "I thought you should have these," Taman said. "You have come a long way. You deserve to walk your own path." Hana looked at the shoes for a long moment. She remembered the night Taman found her. She had been barefoot, lost, and broken. She had been no one. Now she was someone. She had a name she chose herself. She had friends who cared about her. She had work that mattered. And she had hope. She put on the shoes and stood. They fit perfectly. She took a few steps, testing them. Then she looked at Taman and smiled. "Thank you. For everything. For finding me. For believing in me. For helping me become who I am." Taman shook his head. "You did that yourself. I just gave you a place to start." Outside, the sun was setting over Seoul. The spaceport in the distance glowed with lights from ships coming and going. The galaxy was vast and full of danger, but it was also full of possibility. Hana looked out the window at the sky. Somewhere, out there, other people were suffering the way she had suffered. Other victims needed help. The work was not done. It would never truly be done. But she was ready. She had found her strength. She had found her voice. And she would use both to make the galaxy a better place. That night, a new refugee arrived at the workshop. A young being from a species Hana did not recognize. They were scared and hurt. They had no name they could remember. They had no shoes. Hana walked over and knelt beside them. She spoke gently, the way Taman had spoken to her that first night. She told them they were safe now, that they would be okay, and she meant it. Because she had learned something important. Everyone deserved a chance to be who they chose to be. Everyone deserved kindness. Everyone deserved hope. As she helped the stranger to their feet, Hana looked down at her own shoes. The simple, comfortable shoes that represented everything she had become. She smiled. She had been found without a name or shoes. She had discovered the truth about herself in a moment of vulnerability. That truth had shattered her old identity. But from those broken pieces, she had built something new, something stronger. She was no longer a victim of the Valari Empire. She was Hana. She was free. And she would spend the rest of her life helping others find that same freedom. The workshop door closed behind the new refugee. Inside, warm light glowed. Outside, the stars shone in the endless sky, and somewhere in between, hope lived on.